everybody, Lori here from Unique in the Creek, and I'm going to show you how to make a poinsettia wreath on the large board. This technique can be used for many different flowers. You could do this technique with white mesh and a yellow center, which will give you a daisy. You can use this technique with a yellow mesh with a brown center, will get you a sunflower. And today we're going to be using red mesh with gold ornaments for the center, and it's going to give us a poinsettia. First thing I want to do is talk about the board. The board, and this is our large board. So the back of the board has all our Unique in the Creek website, our logo, and Made in Canada. And the front side of the board, you'll see that has 5 circumferences with numbers in each circumference. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this is just to help with easy pattern making, or if you're teaching others, it's easy to say, okay, now we're working on circumference 3. Circumference 1, you'll see has only one single hole. That's because we are going to use the one hole to the outside of the board. And that is the only circumference that's different from the rest of the board. All the others, row 2 has 16 sets of hole, row 3 has 8 sets, row 4 has 8 sets, and row 5 has 4 sets. This is patterned to help you make all different kinds of flowers and wreaths, not only just a sunflower. But like I said at the beginning, whatever color mesh you use and center, that will be the color of your flower, and it'll look like a daisy or a sunflower or whatever. First thing I want to show you is loading the zip tie. For making this flower, we're going to preload the board, and we're going to preload it closed, which means you're going to take a zip tie. I use 6.5-inch zip ties at 18 pounds. So they're tiny and they have a little tiny head. And these are normally cheaper than a 40-pound zip tie. And a 40-pound zip tie is very thick and it's a little cumbersome, and you really don't need a big zip tie like that. And they're a little more pricier. So you want to use the 18-pound zip tie, and I like 6.5-inch. It seems to be the perfect length for whatever I'm doing. 4-inch I don't recommend using unless you're doing something with very small, like maybe a ribbon flower or something. But with 4-inch zip ties, you need a space to get that mesh in. So 6.5 seems too good to me. So what you're going to do is you're going to preload this whole board closed. What that means is you're going to go down one hole and come back up the other, and you're going to zip it till you hear a couple little zips. Okay, and you're going to leave a big space in here, and that's enough. That gives you a nice space to work with your mesh. Okay, and we're going to go again down and up, and you hear that zip and closed. So you're going to do all row 2, 3, 4, and 5. You are going to preload your whole board. Okay, so this is a really easy thing to do. You can actually sit in your recliner and just preload your boards, or if you're going to do a few flowers, you could preload a bunch of boards at the same time and get it over with while you're watching a movie or something. That's what I like to do. Keep it light and almost like knitting. You got something to do with your hands. Okay, so that is how you preload the board. I'm not going to do this whole one because I do have one prepared already. So once you preload your board, you're then going to want to cut your mesh. The mesh I'm going to be using is called a striped fabric mesh. So this mesh you can buy online at different online craft stores. We will be carrying it in our Unique in the Creek store come the 2020, and we will be having kits made with this mesh as well. What we want to do is we're going to cut this mesh at 9 inches. Okay, so to cut your mesh, it's really good to have a cutting mat. A lot of people like to heat seal their mesh, which means you can either cut it with a wood burning tool and it kind of melts the edges so the mesh doesn't fray, or you can use a bag sealer, which does basically the same thing. It kind of melts the plastic so the plastic doesn't fray. So fraying means like little strings hanging out. For this, I'm just going to cut it with my rotary cutter. And I'm going to cut them at 9 inches. Now this mesh is 10 inches wide. I like to cut mine at 9 inches because then I do not have to open a whole nother roll. If you cut it at 9 inches, you need 36 pieces, and 9 inches at 10 yards gives you exactly 36 pieces. So I'm going to cut this mesh at, I have quite a large cutting mat. So I'm going to cut it at 27. Okay. Then at 18. And then again at 9. So that just gives me 3 pieces of mesh. And you don't want to handle the mesh too much. The less you handle it, the less it frays. Okay, and then you're just going to pile it into a pile. So we'll do that again. You're going to cut it. I cut mine at 27. That just gives me more pieces to cut at one time. 18. And the 9. Okay, so you're going to cut your whole roll of mesh just like that. You can also cut it if you get a piece of cardboard at 9 inches long. I have a piece of wood here. And what you can do is you can put your cardboard or your measuring, if you have a piece of wood, cut it at 9 inches. You can put it onto your mesh. Now your mesh has a natural curl. You want to have it where the curl is up, just like that, so when you lift it off, it will fold up or roll up. And what you can do, and I find using clothespins handy for this, is flip it over once. And this is if you do not have a rotary cutter or a cutting mat, this is an easy way to cut your mesh with just scissors. I then put a clothespin on the end of my mesh, and these are just clothespins from the dollar store. Okay, and I'm now going to flip my mesh. So you want to flip it, depending how sharp your scissors are. You can flip it over a few times, and then once you're finished flipping, you want to make sure it's kind of tight, because the looser your flips, the less mesh you're going to have in the end. Then you can take your clothespin off, clip it at the end, take your other one off, clip it at the other end, and now we're going to cut it off of the roll with our scissors, just like that. Now I'm going to take my mesh with the measuring tool inside. I'm just going to push it down, and that just gives it room for me to get my scissors in, and you're going to cut down the side of the mesh. Okay, just like that. And take your measuring tool out. You're going to flip this over, and you can put your clothespins again, keeping your stack, and go up the side with your scissors again. Okay, and now you've cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, depending how many times you've flipped over on your measuring tool. Okay, so that's another way to cut it without having a cutting mat and a rotary cutter. Just grab a piece of cardboard and cut it at 9 inches. Okay, so for this poinsettia, to make your petal is quite easy. You're going to take one of those pieces of mesh that you've cut, Okay, and it has that natural curl again. So it's gonna roll up, and what you're gonna do is face it in a diamond shape. You're gonna take the top corner, bring it down to the bottom corner, just like that. And you're just gonna go straight up and then flatten this out. Just like this. It looks like almost like an umbrella shape or a stingray shape. That's what my kids call it. Okay, so now you got this shape. You're gonna now then scrunch from this corner right up the middle. And just like this. So scrunch or fold. It looks like an accordion fold right up the middle. Okay, so this is what you got. Okay, and now you can flip it just like that. That gives you 2 petals. And I put a clothespin on, and I'll do another one. So again, you take your piece, fold it up so it's got it like the U shape. Okay, turn it into a diamond, bring the top corner down to the bottom corner, go straight up, and we're going to smooth out the edges, and then you can go scrunch, scrunch. So I'm pinching with my thumb and my forefinger up the center. Flip it up, and when you're flipping it up, you want to make sure that both of the tips are even, so you know both petals are the same length. Okay, take another clothespin, and voila, you can make a whole bunch with clothespins. Okay, so once you've done, you know, I guess if you have 5 or 6 clothespins, you can do pre-do 5 or 6 petals. So one more time, corner to corner, folding it down, pinch from the middle all the way up, just like that, and then flip it. And we're making sure both corners are the same length, and put a clothespin on it. Now you can do it 10 by 10, and that will give you perfectly even petals. However, you will have to open another roll of mesh. So this is 10 by 10. I'm going to fold this right over. Again, straighten these out. Start from the middle all the way out and fold it. So you can see that it does fold over really nicely, but once you start putting these in on top of each other, it's really hard to tell that this one's only 9 inches and this one's 10 inches. So to save a little bit of money, instead of having to open a whole new roll, I will leave that decision to you. You can cut it at 9 inches, or you can cut it at 10 inches, and you'll need a couple rolls. And these are like perfect petals, so they line up perfectly well with each other. Okay, I need one more clothespin. Okay, so that's how our petals. We are going to need, for the poinsettia, we have 5 ornaments. So I got 4 of the same, and one's just a little bit different, and that's going to go in the center. We'll do that at the end. You will need glue, hot glue, and a glue gun. I'm going to be using green mesh around the outside to make green petals, and I'm going to be folding those green petals exactly like I'm doing these ones, except we're going to be using green. Okay, so I'll bring this one that I have started up, and we will finish it together. So let me get my stuff organized here. There we go. So I've half done this one, and as you can see, it's beautiful. It's quite large. It's perfect size for a front door. I've seen some that, you know, they're not very big. They're very pretty, but they're not very big, and they kind of look funny on a front door. I don't know. I'm just saying, but So this one is nice and big. You can also, if you do want to do a smaller one, just like this, you can use our small board. We have a small board that's 12 inches, and you do the exact same technique. It just makes a smaller poinsettia. So that would be perfect for a hospital room or a retirement home or like a trailer or something that has a smaller space. Okay, so as you can see, I preloaded everything. I've done half of the poinsettia, so I'm going to do the other half of the poinsettia with you guys right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your petal that you just made. I'm going to take it out of the zip tie, or out of the clothespin. And you're going to slide this end right into the zip tie and pull it tight. Okay? And that's pretty much your whole wreath. So I do one row at a time. So I'll put all of this row onto the board. So you're going to pull. Now, if you don't have strong fingers, you can use needle nose plier. That really helps you pull the zip ties nice and tight. Okay? Or you can use a zip gun. This is a zip tie gun. These are handy if you're doing lots of work with the zip ties. You just place, there's a slot right here. You put the zip tie in the slot, and this pulls the zip tie and cuts it once it gets tight. It's a really handy, nice little tool to have. And it's easy like that. So usually I do one row, and then I'll go around and cut all the zip ties for that row, and then I'll continue on to the next row. Now, if you don't have a zip tie gun, you can use scissors. Now, you don't want to use your good ribbon scissors, or you can use wire cutters. You can get inexpensive wire cutters at the dollar store. All you want to do with these wire cutters is to trim off the end of your zip tie. And that's why I say don't use your ribbon scissors, because it will dull. Over time, it will dull your scissors. So if you just buy yourself a nice pair of wire cutters or little needle nose snips that you can use for jewelry, that works as well. It turns out really, you pull it and it turns out really nice. Okay, I'll do one more. And then I'll have to fold some more petals. So corner to corner, just flatten, scrunch like an accordion up the middle, and you're going to put the end right into the zip tie and zip it to the board. Again, corner to corner, scrunch up the middle, and put it into the zip tie. Okay, and then once you've done that whole circumference, you can go around and cut your zip ties off, either with your gun or your needle nose pliers. Pull it nice and tight, and then snip off the tails. I usually keep a little bucket around, and I throw the zip tie tails in that little bucket so you don't have a big mess. All right, so we're ready for the next row. So we just did row 2. So we're going to do row 3 now. ready to add some greenery in our center as well. So I've done 4 pieces of the green. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more pieces I'm going to be doing. And to do the green, I'm going to cut these pieces 10 by 10. So they're 10 inches wide already. Likes to stick to each other. And I'm going to cut it 10 inches long. Again, if you don't have a rotary cutter, you can use your cardboard and flip it over like I showed you guys with the red. 2. So I need 4 of these pieces. 3. 4. Okay, and I'm going to fold them exactly the way I folded the red petals. So I'm going to fold it over, flatten, flatten, and then scrunch right up the middle. And this is a fabric mesh, so it's a little more pliable than a regular deco mesh. So it's softer, meaning. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to put a clothespin. I find it's easier to make a few and then just zip them in. So it's 2. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Beautiful. And there we go. So we got our 4 petals. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this over so it's easier to show you how to put the green petals on. We're going to be using row 1, these outside holes. So what you're going to need, we're going to need 4 more zip ties. So this zip tie, I'm going to take it and I'm going to go through that hole right here. I'm going to take one of my green leaves. Now I want the good side facing upwards. So I'm going to take where I pinched it and I'm going to zip it onto the board. There we go. So that's what it looks like on the back side. And then I'll flip it over so I can show you how to do it from the front side. It's a little more difficult to see, so I thought I would start with the back side. So we're going to go to this hole. So I'm going to take my zip tie, I'm going to go through the hole here, and I'm going to lay my zip tie down like an L-shaped, just like that. Okay, you're going to take your petal or your leaf. You want the good side facing up, like that, so it's flat. You're going to take this rounded part, put it on the board right in front of that hole, come around, so you're wrapping around your zip tie, and you're zipping the green right to the board. You can do this on your first step. I just find they're long, so they get frayed a little easier. So I kind of leave them to the end. So again, I'll do it from the front side and then I'll go from the back side. So again, putting a zip tie through that outer hole, putting the zip tie in an L shape onto the table while it's through the board. Take your leaf, so you got it pinched, put it right on the board. Oh, my zip tie fell out. It wants to slide away on me. My zip tie's flipped over now. Okay, put it on the board and then take your zip tie and go around. And cut it off. I'll do the last one from the back side. So we have one more right here. So I'm going to take my zip tie, going through my green. So this is, both are good sides. I'm taking it in my finger and I'm wrapping the zip tie around the board and around the inside of the mesh there, and you're going to zip it up tight and cut. There we go. We have a nice clean back, so there's nothing to cover up, nothing's going to scratch a door. You can place your logo or your sticker for your business onto the back of your board. That way, if they buy a poinsettia and they want a sunflower, they know who to contact. Okay? Now, right up here, we have 2 extra holes. Now, on the other side of the board, it is chamfered in, which means like divoted in, and these just indicate they're the hanging holes. You can use twine, you can use ribbon, you can use anything you want for a hanger. I tend to use just a zip tie because you really don't see it. So you're just going to go down one hole and up the other. Zip it, not all the way up. Cut off the tail and you have yourself a hanger. Okay, so that's what they would hang it on. And now we're going to finish the center and we are done. Okay, so I have these ornaments. These are just from the dollar store, gold ornaments. I like to take the ornament tops off, and I'm going to glue a little bit of glue around the top of each ornament because I will be stringing zip ties through the eye of the ornament, and if I pull, I don't want the cap pulling off of the actual ornament. Take these off. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to put a little bit of glue going around the outside of each ornament top, and I use Gorilla Glue sticks. I find them really, really good, and I know they're going to be secure. Okay, so those 2 are done. Just around the outside. There we go. This one's going to be for the center. We're going to put our zip ties in. And we are going to be putting a zip tie in between the spaces here. So from this hole to this hole, we're going to put a zip tie. And then from this hole to this hole, we're going to put a zip tie. And spin it around on the back with your hand, this hole to this hole, and then from this hole to this hole. So when you look on the back of your wreath, you'll have a full circle of zip ties. Okay, and then what you want to do is we're going to zip tie our ornaments onto the board. So you're going to take your ornament, feed it through the hole on the top, and zip tie this in. You don't want to do it too tight yet until they're all on. And you want the stems of the ornaments facing the inside of the flower. Okay, so once they got them all on, we're gonna zip them and make sure the inside of the ornament is in the center of your zip tie. Okay, so I'm going to cut these off as I'm pulling. So there's one. I know it's really hard to see what you're doing, but we're just zip tying right onto the center. And we have one more. There. Now all of them are right dead center. Okay. And now I'm just going to glue each ornament to each other. So just on the side. Okay, and we'll hold that. And then the last ornament you'll put, now you can feed a zip tie down. You can use a pipe cleaner through here and feed it down through the holes. I'm just going to glue it. I'm using Gorilla Glue, so I know it's going to glue very well. So I'm just going to put glue around the top there and hold it on the ornaments. You can also lift your ornament and put a little bit where the center ornament is touching the other balls. And just hold it. And our flower is, our poinsettia flower is complete. Now you're going to make sure all your petals are nice folded and there's no spots, and voila, we are done. Thank you for watching this tutorial and subscribing, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.